Ariso aims to use AI to bridge the gap between individual people's current state and their full potential and organizations' current state and their full potential. 90% of your people and your team are going to be top performers rather than 10%.
Welcome to the Forward Slash podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. I am your host, James Carman, and today we're talking to Erkang Zheng. Erkang is a data, AI, and cybersecurity leader with an engineer's background and an entrepreneur's mindset. I love that. He's the founder of JupiterOne, where he built a cloud-native security platform that brings clarity and confidence to digital operations. Today, Erkang is building an AI-powered platform focused on helping people and organizations reach their full potential through intelligent, personalized insights with a strong belief in using AI for good. It's a great bio. I like that. Thanks for joining. Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be chatting with you.
Yeah. Okay. So JupiterOne, I'll maybe start there a little bit, kind of like as your background. So JupiterOne, that's kind of a cybersecurity platform. How did that come to be? How did that become your passion early on in your career?
It's interesting. You want a short story or the long story?
We've got editors. Let's go with whatever. We'll cut it down.
Okay.
If it's not.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So I'll give you the semi-long story then. So,
sure.
I started as an engineer in college, but it sort of took a deviation to my original goal, right? So originally I wanted to be a doctor and ended up being an engineer, right? So because I didn't have the patience to go through med school.
Mm-hmm.
But I did still do, right? So I have the passion to help people. And that is how I, long story short, and how I ended up in cybersecurity. And I felt like, wow, what a great way to combine the two, right? So scratch my engineering itch of creating and building in a much faster way and changing on a daily basis, right? So with the internet and the cloud and the SaaS and all those things. But apply it in a way that helps people and help organizations. That's, cybersecurity, right? So a lot of times I view the cybersecurity profession as almost the doctor in cyberspace. So that's how I ended up building JupiterOne. And at the end of the day, right, so it's more about contextual data analysis applied to a specific domain, specific use case. Mm-hmm. That's IT and cybersecurity, right? So answering questions with complex sets of data interconnected. That's what it is, and that's how it came to be.
Awesome. Yeah. How is it, working in the cybersecurity world? It seems like it would, kind of be just enthralling, if you will. It can be very exciting because it's constantly moving. I mean, you'll plug one hole, and then the bad guys come up with a new way of doing bad things, and then now you got to figure that out. It's like you're constantly in this like investigation. How is that? Is that energizing to you, or is it like daunting?
Yeah, and I think that's true in a lot of sense, right? It's not just cybersecurity. There's always things popping up that you have to deal with. There's always fires. Right. And I've learned that, it's not just cyber, but a lot of times, business, especially running a startup is like that, right? So it's that roller coaster, on a daily basis. You feel like 1 minute, everything's going great. And then the next minute, something happens and then you feel like, oh my God, this is going to, burn to the ground. So, there's that, huge swing of moments. And of course, and if you look at cyber, right? So that happens on a daily basis as well, right? So one second everything was fine, the next second you're under attack, right? So, and 0 days come out, right? And all of those are often unexpected. And all of those often happens on Fridays, on the weekend, when you're least expected, right?
Or at least want it to happen too.
Exactly, right? So I think that's just the nature of life and that you have to deal with. Now, my principle and an approach, has never really been on the reactive side, right? So there are two sides to things, cyber or other things, right? So there are two sides. And, one side is being reactive and being responsive. And you kind of have to deal with that, right? So you have to have a plan when the stuff hits the fan and something bad happens and you have to deal with it and you have to have a good plan. And, but then I really believe, right, so that to invest early on, right, into the root causes, right, into the preventative measures, and that's what I've been focused on. Whether it's JupiterOne or the new thing that I'm building, Ariso, right, is all within that mindset of, what are the things that you can do ahead of time to get you better prepared, so that the bad things don't happen. Or, in the case which I'm sure we'll talk about, right, about Ariso on the people side as well, and the company operations, right? What are the things that you can invest in early on to close that gap and be more mature and be more proactive, as much as possible, right?
Hmm.
So that you don't get into the moment that you need to have it, and then you feel like, oh, I didn't have the tools, or I wasn't ready, I don't have the maturity, I didn't think about that. Then it becomes a struggle when something accidentally happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you find you've been doing JupiterOne for a little while now, and then been a founder and kind of a small business owner and founder. Do you find that, I don't know, this has been my journey so far. I'm somewhat new to kind of executive leadership, but like the idea, like there's ideas that come up and there's principles and those sort of things, but it's almost like you're almost blind to the concepts until maybe 18 months down the road, and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I'd have listened to that book I read, or that article I
Oh
read,
my
or
God,
something like that.
yeah,
We just weren't ready, right? Or maybe you
that's
hadn't
so true.
felt that pain yet. Do you have the same experience?
Absolutely. That's so true. And, I have learned a lot of lessons myself. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of people are still learning the hard way. And it's just, when things are not happening, there's no pain, right? And when there's no pain, you don't, try to, resolve something that is not a problem,
Hmm.
right? And rarely do people think ahead of time and foresee that problem might happen, right? So then you're dealing with uncertainties, right? So that but look, the reality is there's so much that everybody's dealing with and handling. We're all overwhelmed
Mm.
already, right? So I think it's understandable, why that happens, and because we have so much to deal with, right? So like on the cyber side, we have to deal with attacks and all the things that's already happening. So it leaves very little bandwidth
Mm.
for organizations or individuals to think proactively, right? Not that they don't want to, it's just the reality of it,
Sure.
right? And same things with what you're saying, right? So company leadership, being an executive, or just overall as any individual contributor as well, right? So just trying to improve and be a better person, be a better professional, you know, it is hard when you're already overwhelmed to reflect and think about, oh, how can I get better? Because the pain point wasn't there. The pain point was, how do I get through the day?
Right.
So
Exactly. I'm just trying
yeah,
to get through this life thing, Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
think.
on both fronts, and this is where my passion lies, right? So whether it's JupiterOne or Riso, if you think about this, it's all coming from the same starting point. And to what you were saying, right? So there's a lot of learnings that is just the basics, right? So the fundamentals, the first principles of things.
Mhm.
But oftentimes those are the hardest, and those are the things that that's most easily overlooked, right? But then if you apply those on a continuous basis in a structured way, it is how you get better and how you be more prepared, how you become more mature over time,
Mm.
right? And again, going back to what I was saying is just people are so overwhelmed, and they don't have the mental or physical bandwidth to do that. So that's where you really need help, right? You really need you need tools and products, and now AI to
Sure.
help you then apply those first principles, right? So whether that's cyber or company operations, or being a better leader, or better employee.
Yeah, absolutely. I find, incorporating, tools and things that were designed to help in the modern life and the modern leadership world, it definitely, I find myself when I do lean in and actually use the things that were designed to help me and the things that I'm, incorporating, I'm thinking of like my getting things done. I use what is it called, OmniFocus for that. When I am
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
using the tool the right
yeah.
way and keeping it in my life on a daily basis, it definitely does help for sure. So the Jupiter one is, that's your first baby, and that's going well. Now, this new Ariso thing, is this under the same umbrella, the same company, or is this a new endeavor? Like how is this thing coming to be now?
Yeah. This is a brand new endeavor and with a brand new idea and product and team, but it's driven by the same passion and belief,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of people ask me, hey, why not another cybersecurity product, right? And of course, first of all, I can't compete with my own baby, right? So that's a given, right? So that's one of the reasons of why not a cybersecurity product, and because JupiterOne itself is so versatile and it actually can be fairly broad in terms of use cases, right? So then, it would be somewhat challenging for me to create another unique solution that won't somehow overlap with JupiterOne in the cyberspace.
Gotcha.
Right. But then the other part that you think about it, right? So there are definitely similarities. And again, right, it's about applying first principles, right? So what are the best practices proactively for a given use case, right? So JupiterOne focused on the proactive data correlation and analysis for cybersecurity, compliance, risk management, vulnerability management, right? So that you can know before something bad happens, right? You
Mhm.
can do that contextual analysis and connect the dots before something bad happens, right? So that's sort of the gist of it, right? It's the data platform to support that. Now, the learnings I've had prior to building JupiterOne, was as a cybersecurity consultant, was as a former CISO, running global security practices at IBM and Fidelity, and so on and so forth, right? So that led me to um, building JupiterOne based on a lot of my firsthand pain points, right? And also my peers and so on. Now, going forward with Ariso, right? So again, if you think about what happened, was that my pain points on the non-technical side, right? So the business operations and the managing the startup and growing it and the ups and downs and the challenges along the way. And also just generally speaking, right? So as a leader in organizations and think about my own growth of my own career journey. And I felt that the pain points are all very people related. They
Mm.
are not quite related or limited by the technical side of things, right? So that's almost a given, right? You have to be good at something,
Sure.
right? So that's almost a given. But only that you are really good at something, at a craft, is not the only factor that allows a person or a team or a company to reach its full potential, right? So I felt like it's the struggles I've had, whether it's me as an individual contributor or me as a leader in the organization or me as a founder and operator, has always been on the people side. So is the communication, is the understanding, is the context, is the silos, is the culture, right? Is the hiring and the firing, is the talent managers, all of those that fundamentally are the pain points and also the root causes and the reasons of why sometimes you're stuck, sometimes you are scaling, sometimes you're being amazing, right? So sometimes you can 10x, right?
Sure.
So it's all due to fundamentally the people side of things.
Hmm. Isn't that funny? Everybody
Yeah.
thinks it's all about, I got to have this great new idea, but really the bigger roadblocks standing in your way are learning all those people lessons, which is part of what my journey is right now, learning a lot of those people lessons. So what would you say, you're now a serial entrepreneur with the Ariso thing spinning up now. When you started up Ariso, what is like that lesson that you're like, okay, new company starting, there's one lesson I am so glad I don't have to learn again. I know I've already figured that part out, and this is going to make this so much smoother. Because that's what they say. Like the serial entrepreneurs are like, okay, the first one's the hardest. You learn all those hard lessons, and then, but the next ones are, as you're seeing, they're easier because there's those lessons you just don't have to learn. What's the big one for you that you're just so thankful? My goodness, I'm glad I don't have to learn that over again.
Oh man, there's so many. Maybe I'll give you two.
Okay.
Okay. So you asked for one, but I'll give you one for free. So
That's a bonus.
the
I didn't even pay for that. That's
yeah
good.
the two lessons, right? So one is hire slow. Okay, so even as you are growing significantly and growing fast, and when I say hire slow, it's relatively speaking, right? Because if you're hyper scaling, that you're still hiring fast, but comparatively, you have to hire slow, right? If you think you need to hire 10 people, hire two or at most five, right?
Hmm.
If you think you need to hire 100 people, hire 20. That's what I mean, right? So the mindset, right? So that's one thing that I learned.
But let
Right?
me maybe jump in and ask, if you don't mind, a quick question
Yeah,
about
of
that.
course.
So is the idea there you think you need more capacity than you really do, or is it more about you need to be more deliberate from bringing the right people in? What's the what should be the throttling factor there? You're saying like you need to throttle yourself intentionally. Is it because if you go too fast, you bring in the wrong people, or you're not the right enough people, or is it you really don't need as many people as you think you do? Which is that, or maybe both?
It is both,
Okay.
actually, right? So if you think about it, I do think that is one of the biggest things that caused me some pain points was as we grew very fast, right? So the culture started to shift.
Hmm.
And is if you already have 100 people, then you're hiring 10. It's not as big a deal, right? But if
Right.
you have 10 people and all of a sudden next month you have 20, right? So now it's the same 10 people, but you just doubled,
Right.
right? So then the culture starts to change, right? So you go from 20 to 50, 50 to 100, right? So if that happens almost overnight, then you start to lose that original culture that you've built.
Sure. Yeah. Because you only have
And
50% kind of momentum for you. Yeah.
that's right. And it's just very difficult when you're bringing at 50% or 100% more of the people to know, right, if you have absolutely the right people in. So I think it's that, right? So always hold a high bar, and again, a high bar to people that you bring, not just on the technical side, but also on the culture side. And the second thing is also true. The second thing is, and especially today with AI, right?
Hmm.
And you probably don't need as much capacity as you thought.
Okay.
And the point I would try to make is then proof that you need it with data.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
So we all have a model that we build out, right? So when we run the business and we have a model, and the model says, hey, in order to achieve, X numbers of ARR or whatever metrics that you use, right, by this time, you need this much capacity then at this moment. Okay, well, let's then prove it a step at a time, right? So I'll give you a specific example, right? So if you think you have 5 salespeople now, you need 15. Well, don't, based on the model, right? So, well, don't go off and hire 10 salesperson right away,
Sure.
and make sure that everyone is over their quota before you do that,
Uh-huh.
right? And if everyone's only hitting 50% of the quota, and then you have 5 more, there's also hitting 50% of your quota. Sure, you just double your revenue, but everybody is still 50% efficient.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
it just costs more, and then overall the company becomes a little bit more mediocre as a result.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right. So I interrupted you to get a little clarity there. You were saying so when it goes to hiring, hire slow, and then the second concept was you were going on to
the
that.
second one is on the product, right? So the product has to be, how do I put it this way? So I think the product needs to be polished from a user's perspective, not from an engineering perspective.
Okay.
And this one is maybe a little bit difficult to grasp. And let me explain, right? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about how you engineered it, right? So to accumulate tech debt, right?
Hmm.
That you certainly don't want to do. But what I'm saying is you have to have a very focused, polished user experience in order for the product to scale.
Okay.
And even if that goes against certain engineering beliefs, right? So, that's especially when you're building a complex, data first, data oriented platform like JupiterOne and like Ariso and that type of things, right? So there are certain approaches that is more engineeringly correct, for lack of better words, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
this is how permission should get configured, right? So this is what the process should take, and and so on and so forth. But in order to achieve that, the users have to jump through a bunch of hoops and be almost an engineer themselves in order to use it correctly.
Gotcha.
Well, that doesn't help, right? So that hurts. And so that's a big lesson learned, right? So it's that even though that seems perfect and great and correct from an engineering perspective, that in many cases is not what the end user would want or gravitate towards.
Okay. So let me see if I can echo back in my own words. You're saying, like, if it comes to a situation where we often, we have to make trade-offs early on to get a product to market and get in front of folks and get some revenue moving, right?
Yeah.
But if you're to, you can kind of go with a user interface that might be, maybe, let's just use the word ugly for lack of a better term for me. It might be ugly compared to what the vision is ultimately, but you would say don't sacrifice that ugliness on the side of like kind of making it utilitarian in nature. You want to try to streamline that experience as much as possible. And I'm doing a poor job of paraphrasing, but like I'm trying to kind of internalize what you've said. Is that the idea? Is like really really strive for that ease of user experience and make those extra tidbits and bells and whistles first, and then bring the engineering aspects later.
Yeah, make it as easy to start as possible. Right. Even though the advanced configurations may be the most correct approach, give them the simple option to start.
Okay. Like the 80-20 kind of rule sort of thing. Make the 80% of the customer's life super, super, super easy. And the advanced mode can come later for those others. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I like it. Okay. Oh, this is a bit of an aside. We haven't even talked about what even is this Ariso thing, this new endeavor, this new baby of yours. And you're doing kind of the Elon Musk thing now. You've got JupiterOne. It's going to be that's your Tesla. And now you're doing SpaceX, and so you're kind of a new Elon.
I hope so. I would. One day.
One day, yeah. Baby steps. So this Ariso thing, tell us a bit about that. I think we've had one of your colleagues on before, so we have a little bit of a understanding, but maybe we'd love to hear from you on what is Ariso.
Absolutely. Right. So going back to what I was saying a little bit before of my own pain points that I've realized have always been on the non-technical side, and organizationally have been on the people and culture side. Right. So that is what Ariso aims to solve. Now, Ariso aims to use AI to bridge the gap between individual people's current state and their full potential, and organizations' current state and their full potential. So let me unwrap that a little bit, right? So, that sounds great, but what does that mean, right? So what is it? All right. So what that is using AI to provide a support system for employees in the organization so that 90% of your people and your team are going to be top performers rather than 10%.
You have my attention.
Right. So if you think about it, most organizations have this mindset, right? So the mindset is, yes, we have the top 10% top performers. They're the best. They're the A team, and so on. We invest in them. We give them additional training, additional coaching, right? And if they are leadership and management, we give them executive assistants, executive coaches, continue to grow them, and so on and so forth. Okay, but sounds great. But if you take a step back and think about this a little bit more, you are investing in 10% of the company, which means you are not investing in 90% of the company. Which one is bigger? I don't have to do the math for you, right?
Yeah.
So, but the reality is, again, it goes back to practical limitations. We only have so much bandwidth. We only have so much resources, so much money. And of course, we're going to invest in the best people we have to continue to grow them, to retain them, and so on. Makes sense. And that's just because the resources and the budget are not available, right? So what if I tell you, especially with AI, that you have this opportunity with the same level of resources, and maybe even less, right? So with the same level of budget that you would investing the 10% of the top performers, investing 100% of your company and your employees, make everybody stronger and better. And as a result, you have 90% of people that you can say that they are the top performers. They're great, they're the 18, right?
I'll buy that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like and like democratizing excellence kind of is that maybe
That's
fair?
that's a great way of putting it, right? So democratizing excellence, democratizing the resources and support systems that previously were reserved for the executives and the 10% of top performers, right?
Now, do the executives still get like they fly first class and all that? That's still happening, right? That's still a thing. Like,
that is a whole company. That is up to them, right? So that I have no control over.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the company thing. All right. So the concept is straightforward. So we established that. Right now that let's go a step deeper, right? So what does that look like? So now if you think about what do the top 10% people get that help them got there and continue to stay there and continue to go up, right? Again, it's not the technical skills, right? If you think about the best person in the crowd, whether it's an attorney or doctor or whatever, right? So compared to all of the others, the technical difference are probably minimal. And what got them to be the best as they can is the support system that allow them to grow, and it's the communications, is the assistance on the day-to-day and to take care of the busy work for them so they can focus on continue to refine their own craft, right? So that's why executives have EAs, right? Because then they can spend their time focused on the more important things and not the little busy work.
Sure.
Right. So that's why leaders and executives, they can delegate to their team. So it's the ability to delegate that to somebody else, right? The work that doesn't help you grow, that doesn't create the biggest impact. And then it is the way that each person are able to reflect and be self-aware of your own strengths, weakness, and communications, and continue to grow with somebody helping you as a coach, as a mentor, right? So nobody got to be the CEO overnight. And along the way, I look at my journey, right? So I was fortunate to have a lot of that support system, people who helped me as a coach, as a mentor, and so on, right? And later on in my career, I've been fortunate to be able to do the same for other people, right? So become their coach and mentor and so on and so forth, right? And it was that, and the coaching and the mentorship was never really technical. It was more on the other side, right? So that's what helped me advance in my career, become a leader, become a manager, and become an operator and run companies and so on, right?
Okay.
So I think again, a lot of people have that potential. And it's just your current state and where your potential is. There's this gap, and you don't have the support system to help you bridge that gap. So the system that we're building is using AI. We call the agent Ari, right? So that's the name of the agent, and she becomes your best buddy at work.
Okay,
and she becomes some of our customers call that your work spouse, quote unquote, right? So it's someone that you can delegate to, and you can ask for help, right? So someone who keep you organized and also keep you honest, and someone who keep you stay on track of things, and but also strategically and long-term things, someone who can help you be a better person, and again, in the work context.
Okay, so it's like we're all Iron Man and we all have Jarvis now.
You all have Jarvis.
I love it.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, this stuff is fascinating. So, do you feel like the kind of the recent trend in AI with generative AI and LLMs and that sort of thing, was that kind of an unlock for solutions like this, or did some of what's going on right now is that just the awareness around the newer versions of AI and generative AI are kind of making people think, well, how can I use AI for other things? And some of the techniques and whatnot have been around for a long time that would have enabled things. It's just people are thinking more about AI now. Do you feel like Ari was something that was possible in the past with the technology we had, let's say 15, 20 years ago? Or
Yeah,
is it really this new era that's unlocked that?
it definitely is new, right? So without AI, this wouldn't have been feasible,
Okay.
or it would have been a huge undertaking, and it certainly wouldn't be feasible with a small team building this as a startup, right? So there, and it's we are not building our own models, right? To be honest,
Sure.
and we are using the available models out there, right? So whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or Google Gemini, right? So we're using different things behind the scenes, and it is that allowed us to unlock the other parts, right? So, but what we are doing, the secret sauce, is not the model itself. It's about the workflows. It's about the contextual understanding of you as a person, and then everybody around you in the organization on the team, right? So to take that collective intelligence to apply that and use Gen AI as the engine to support that interaction, to support that workflow, right? And in order to achieve that, right? So without Gen AI, I would say this wouldn't be possible.
Gotcha. Yeah, I feel like that concept, you hit on something that's really kind of key for a lot of organizations as they're considering leveraging AI. That whole idea of like, we're not training our own models. We're not getting into that. We don't have to hire a bunch of people with white coats and whatnot to do all the data science and the machine learning and all of that stuff. Using the models that are out there, the publicly available models, and building workflows and being creative on top of that. That's probably going to be the bulk of the business around LLMs for quite some time. I mean, the need to actually get in and like maybe there'll be some fine tuning here and there, but I think like foundational models, like having to train my own model from the ground up, that's not really for the masses, and I don't think it will be for quite some time. Would
That's
you
right.
agree with that?
I would agree. I would agree. And I think, look, let's think about what's happening in the past 2 years, right, with AI. I think it generated a lot of opportunities, but it also generated a lot of fear, right? And of people getting potentially replaced, right? So what do I do if I'm a software developer? I'm getting replaced by coding agents, and that sort of things, right? So, but as with any new technology, and that is revolutionary, right? So you kind of have to go through that, right? But I do think that this provides the opportunity, and we've seen memes like this too, right? So, AI is not replacing you; it's the people using AI that are replacing you. So I think what we're doing is our fundamental belief at Ariso is everybody has potential. It's just, are you willing to leverage AI to unlock that potential, right? And if we're giving everybody a Jarvis, do you become Iron Man, right? And by the way, it's not just Jarvis. I would say that Pepper Potts as well, right? So it's
Sure.
just the right, and it's not the combination of the two almost, right? It's like you have both. Well, you have your technical assistant, research assistant. You also have that person in your life that's making you better, and I would say that there's in the workspace there's even stronger competition than before, right? So people are, how do you position your best to become promoted? I just say, right? I mean, that's like a lot of people want that, right?
Right, of course.
And then again, it goes back to, if you have access to the right tools and the right solutions, then you have the strongest and best shot at becoming the best, getting promoted or becoming the top performer and the top player and all of that.
Getting a great parking spot, all of the good things that happen with that. Yes,
The parking spot.
yeah, the parking.
Yeah,
all of the
a
things.
seat on the private jet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, we're gonna have to transition, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, because I know you're involved on in the education world a bit, right? You have some involvement with NC State, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I've been on the
So,
computer science advisory board.
yeah, the advisory board. So, how is education? I know early on, as you said, there was a lot of fear around generative AI in the education world. How is the education world? Are they embracing generative AI? Are they jumping right in? Like, what's the climate like right now in higher ed, at least with respect to generative AI?
I think there's still a mixture, right? So a mixture in the academia and the research community. And I think it's getting better that people are more acceptive and adopting AI today than a year ago. But there's still a little bit of that resistance from certain parts of the I'm not talking about interstate specifically. I'm just talking about generally, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
the research and academia community that are somewhat um, reluctant, or in some cases maybe resistant to using Gen AI because whether it is fear or whatever reason, right? There's still that, but I actually think the biggest hurdle in education itself is the speed of change in the system. Okay,
Okay.
it's not the desire. There's a strong desire to teach students about AI, right? There's a strong desire to come up with AI curriculums, to come up with AI oriented courses and um, tools to let the students and teachers use and experiment with AI and so on and so forth, right? But I think it's the overall system that is very slow to change. Like, for example, you still have 4 years degrees and you still have the same number of credits requirements. You still have all these things, right? And the structure and the classes are still structured the same way, even if the contents may be changing, right? So there's a lot of things that are slow to change, while the whole world in the past 2 years has dramatically changed.
Absolutely.
Right. So think about, 10 years ago, right? If you say that as long as I have the right course, as long as I, study the right things, and 4 years later, I get a degree and find a job and I get additional training on the job and so on and so forth, right? But today is different. Companies are not hiring junior people anymore because junior people are replaced by AI, right? Whether it's coding or writing reports or taking notes or, being an analyst or, whatever function and profession, right? So it is difficult to join the workforce as a junior scaled person. Then how do you become senior? So,
That's the
right,
$10 million question right now, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah.
So again, I would argue becoming senior, once again, is not quite about the technical part of what you've learned. Is about how did you apply that learning in real life experiences. Okay, and it's the application of the skills, and it's also the how do you work with others on a project, on a team, in a real customer problem, and so on. Right? How did you apply that in workforce? So all those things, the university structure today is not quite set up to do that. Right? So you had, and again, you think about this, right? So you had 4 years of time, but that entire 4 years, you're going from class to class to class to class, rather than you are working on a project as a team, applying your skills.
Right.
Right? It's the problem of the system and the structure, not the desire, the mindset of the people who wants to, or not want to apply or learn AI.
Is higher ed, is there an awareness? Do you think it's a pervasive enough awareness that they're trying to fight some of that inertia that they have now of like, this is just the way it's always been? Are they willing to change? Are they active in evolving the higher education systems right now?
There is
Okay.
a desire to change, but I think it's a little bit of an uphill battle. It's just
Mhm.
the change comes slowly, and there's so much. And I fortunately had a little bit of that insight and sitting on the board and having some visibility into the actual challenges that they face, right? And every time we talk about this, it's not about they want to do it, but
Mhm.
there's constraints, there's practical constraints as limiting factors from budget to grants to timing to approval process and all of those things. It just doesn't happen overnight. I think it's going to take years, and I think I do think there's enough desire and will to make it happen eventually, but it could just take a long time.
And as a board member, how are you feeling you're doing at encouraging them to take that first bite of that elephant so they can eventually eat the whole thing years down the road? Has that been a struggle?
I think that NC State is doing a fairly good job at taking that first step, right? So launching
Gotcha.
courses, and and more importantly are the programs, right? And you've seen other universities do that as well, right? Stanford, MIT, and so on, right? So they're making free programs. They're doing AI focused programs and all those, right? So I think those are all great first steps, right? Entrepreneur programs. There's a great entrepreneur program at NC State. Right, so all of these are outside of um, the rigidness of the typical process and the typical structure, right?
Okay.
And another example at NC State was the the AI and Data Science Academy that is cross university, right? So
Mm.
it's not tied to a particular school or degree, right? So there are things that universities are trying to get there, right? So a little bit outside of your already in place process and structure.
So they're taking even like what kind of some of the organizations, even enterprises the approach they take where they innovate at the peripheral, at the edge, so to speak.
That's
They
right.
do the
Yeah.
innovations. But once you try to get down in that core of the system, that's the thing that's going to take the longest to kind of, okay, I got you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense. And hopefully you can develop some momentum at the edge to try to work your way in towards that core and
Right.
even explore what works and what doesn't. Because, as you said, we've
Yeah.
only been doing this thing
Yeah.
for a few years now. And so it's all
Yeah.
kind of new.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought it up, right? So because I think that fundamentally, this AI has changed so much for us in the world. And the next phase relies on some fundamental changes for the education system,
Mm.
right? So that we prepare the next generation, the next, wave of entrance to the workforce, right? So the students to get there, right? Otherwise, we're going to have a huge gap from a talent perspective, from the society perspective as well.
I think human beings are pretty resilient. I'm bullish on our success rate there. I think like you think of what we did during COVID. There was
Yeah,
this like every business shut down, new businesses popped up. And
I
new
agree.
ideas for how do I make money? How do we keep people busy? I think we're going to
Yeah,
see the same sort of thing even with this generative AI. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom. Oh, 90% of jobs are going away. Blah blah blah. But I don't know. I think we're a pretty resilient species. I think we're going
I
to be
agree
okay.
with you.
Yeah.
And look, there are people that are doing the best they can to help, right? So
Sure.
and I will call myself one of them, and we want to build the right things and provide the right solutions to help us get there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation so far. We've touched on a lot of different things. This has been really great. But we have to move on to our next segment of the show called Ship It or Skip It.
Ship or skip. Everybody, we got to tell us if you ship or skip.
This is kind of our take on hot or not kind of a thing. Ship it meaning yes, we like that, or skip it meaning nah, I'm not for that. Most of the answers are it depends. I'll tell you, that's a lot of folks
That's right.
kind of give me those
Yeah.
wishy-washy answers. All right, so one that's been very popular, a lot of folks have been wanting to talk about vibe coding. What is your take on vibe coding?
It depends.
I just said I didn't want that. No, I'm just kidding.
Were you not expecting that? Yeah.
I agree, it does. But
Okay. Look, I think that the reason I say it depends is just the definition of vibe coding, right?
Yeah.
So I think that I'm a yes on using AI as a code agent to support engineers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you know what you're doing, 100%.
Sure.
Use code agents, vibe code, whatever term you use it. Right. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're building a prototype, go for it. Absolutely. It gives everyone that superpower. If you can dream of something and build something, right? But do not vibe code a production solution if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think almost universally, it seems like the market, the populace at large there's this kind of reaction now to anything AI generated especially when it comes to the uninitiated. So like if somebody who's not an engineer. So there's been this kind of, and I wouldn't call it knee jerk, but I think it's natural to kind of not fight against it, but not be, it's not something that people are gravitating towards. Like think about like the video content that's going on. And we can talk about that. That's actually one of the ship it or skip it's, but like all this AI generated stuff, you hear people lamenting on like, oh, I'm getting so sick of these AI videos. I'm getting sick of this. Right. I think the same thing can be said for software, because there's going to be, we're going to be inundated with these production, and I'm doing air quotes here, production systems that were vibe coded that they're just not terribly compelling. But then when you make the people who do this stuff for a living, as you said, the engineers, the people who know what they're doing to make production systems, you put AI in their hands to make them now superhuman.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where the magic is. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it makes a good engineers great. Yeah, and we do that a lot, right? So we actually use we have a coding agent that we call Ivan, right? So we give Ivan a lot of tasks to execute autonomously, right? So, but we verify, right? So we never put AI code directly into production. So it goes back to that, right? So it's a significant multiplier if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So with that, one of the next ship it or skip it was around like the whole notion of like content generation. Where are you on that?
I don't mind AI generated content, and it almost goes back to the previous one, right? It's as long as it has a purpose and it has the right quality. So you think about the CGI, okay, computer generated graphic. What's the difference?
Sure.
Go watch Star Wars.
Yeah.
Enjoy it as computer generated.
Right.
High quality, tells a story, it's entertaining. It fulfills a purpose, right? So if it's along those lines, then awesome. But if you're just generating it for the sake of creating digital trash, then don't do it.
Yeah, I think that, and the experience even through the years. Forget about the later generation of everything, but like when Terminator 2 came out, like that was CGI, but everybody's like, oh my goodness, that liquid police officer, right? Like that liquid metal police officer guy, that was so cool, right? Or any of the special effects that we saw through the years. Where it started to get like cheeky for us, I guess, was when it was overdone, and it was like it was just you're just generating things that just aren't very compelling. But when it was used artfully, I think that was where people were. Nobody said, "Oh, I'm not going to go watch a Terminator 2 movie because that's just CGI. They should have just turned a person into liquid and have them do that." Like, no, nobody was rebuffing against T2. That was a huge movie and everybody loved it. But like. I think it is when it's overdone and when it kind of, it just gets watered down, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think that's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I guess the last one, we had a really interesting conversation during the prep call for this about one thing that came up from a ship it or skip it standpoint was conferences these days. Is that still a thing? Are we still, can people still get something out of going to these conferences these days, or is that done?
Ooh, you know what? I think my general feeling of conferences are the big conferences are getting too big and it becomes a lot less valuable. Okay. So that's my general sentiment. Now, I have nothing against going to conferences, right? So, but it's just, I think the ROI, unless you're very intentional, you're not going to see the ROI for going to conferences.
Okay.
Right. So I would say going conferences needs to be very intentional and almost as an exception, not as the default. So what are some of those exceptions? The exceptions being that you have specific things that you have to learn, that you want to learn at those conferences, and you are only learning them in person.
Okay.
One example, right? You are going there to connect with others, and again, it's just intentional networking and intentional awareness generation and so on and so forth, right? And you just have to measure the ROI correctly, right? So I would never really measure the ROI of a conference as a vendor, right? So on sales pipeline, because it just doesn't do it for you.
Right.
Okay. And as an individual, it's not just about going to a conference to go to a talk and hear that, right? Because you can do that on YouTube. And it's more about what are you getting out of that in person, right? Is it a team building in addition to learning? Is it meeting investors and customers and building rapport and building trust
Right.
that you cannot do if you're remote, right? So if you're being very intentional and think about going to conferences as an exception, only if you've defined your very specific success criteria.
Yeah, I love that you brought up, because you have the unique perspective of being on the vendor side of conferences, because I'm sure you've had to do that with your endeavors, and as an individual. You always hear when it comes to conferences, like, oh yeah, the conference is great and everything. Oh yeah. But the real magic of that conference are those, and again, I'm doing air quotes. It's very bad on a audio only podcast for me to do air quotes all the time. I have to say I'm doing it. Anyway, air quotes around like those hallway conversations. That's where the real magic happens and stuff. And I think I love that you said, like, okay, we're taking our team to this conference. It's a team building exercise for us to be together, but we're also talking to the market, hearing from the market, understanding, oh, this is great, but it doesn't solve this need. Like there are people that are purposefully coming together around a certain domain to share things with one another.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you get real time feedback on messaging, right? And you get, because it is a centralized event where people do go, so you can connect with others that otherwise would have to be scattered across different locations, and you have to travel a bunch in order to do that, right? So there are definitely ways that you get your time and money worth at conferences.
Yeah, it's like a clearinghouse of ideas, kind of, everybody has to come together and share a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Ship it or skip it. We have our final segment of the show. And if you've listened to the show, you're familiar, but those of us just tuning in, I have to explain this because of the importance of this part of the show, our lightning round. This is the lightning round is what we call it. And this is the most important segment of the show. This is the thing with the most weight to it. You know what I mean? Like this is real heavy. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Oh man.
This is where
I hope I'm ready for it.
I hope so too. And that's why I'm trying to prepare you and making sure you understand how mentally prepared you need to be for this.
Boy.
Yeah. It's big stuff here. The questions, these are the hard hitting questions. The answers do matter now. Like everything before, you could just make up whatever you wanted. But now these questions are graded. There is a right and a wrong answer. There's a scoring system. Yeah. Okay. You're mentally prepared though. You're ready.
We'll see. I'm as prepared as I can be.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I don't know if you did enough mental preparation before this,
Okay.
call or not.
I guess if I come back to the show, depends on this.
Okay. What does a person need to be happy?
Purpose.
Okay. And you see, you're really having to think deeply about it. I love that you had a great answer. Just boom. I love that. These are the hard hitting questions. Sourdough or wheat?
Sourdough.
Well done. I don't know if you're big into candy, but this one can be quite polarizing. Are you would you rather eat stale Sour Patch Kids or fresh circus peanuts? Some people aren't familiar with what the circus peanut is, that kind of orange-ish looking.
And my answer would be neither.
Neither one?
Is that
Oh, I mean, that is an answer. Yeah. I don't know what the right answers are.
I'm not a candy person. Yeah.
Well, that's fair. That's fair, I guess. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Wow. 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Okay. That's good. One that we've been asking a lot of people, this is a bit of almost like a social experiment for us in finding out if, we've seen a trend here. But I'm just curious what your answer would be. Do you like the smell of gasoline?
I don't.
You don't? Okay. The trend has been a lot of people said yes. For like forever, we've been asking this question, and I don't know, forever. It's been 8, 9 guests or something.
Yeah, I feel like some of my cells are dying every time. It smelled gasoline.
Well, and I think we had the last recording we did that somebody said they didn't, and they felt like it was just, it's chemicals coming into your body. So that's fair.
Right.
But when people do say yes, I think the phenomenon isn't so much that the smell of gasoline is appealing. It's really an associative thing. Like, oh yeah, the smell of gasoline reminds me of going out on the boat with my uncle or taking drives in the. It's like it's always like an associative thing. It's not like,
I see.
Oh yeah, I can smell that for hours. Right?
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. Well, see, I don't have a relevant association. So yeah, the only thing would be like getting gas at the gas station. So
right, and that's you're not just sitting there, at the pump.
No.
Yeah. Would you go to a movie alone?
No.
Okay. On a scale
Netflix,
of yeah. I mean, if you want to watch TV alone, you can just do that on your couch.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at trivia?
1.
Not good, really. Okay.
I'm terrible at trivia.
And it's weird, like, because that's surprising to me. You seem like a very smart person, but it's weird. It's those sleepers that are really good at trivia.
Exactly. Maybe I'm a little bit critical of myself, but I would say that if you have to be not good at something, that actually is one thing I'm not good at.
I had a friend, and he would. It says unassuming folks that are usually really good at trivia, and the unexpected folks are the ones that are good at trivia. I had a friend who was. He's a smart enough guy, but like you wouldn't think of him as like, academic excellence or whatever. He's kind of a football player, jock kind of a dude. But I'll tell you what, man, he did, hey, let's go play Trivial Pursuit. Never say yes to this dude. He was amazing at it. It was like, he was like sharking you. I'd never play for money.
And you know what? I'm just gonna set a low expectation here, right? So if next time we go on trivia and I answer one question correctly, I'll be like, yes, let's high five.
High five,
right? Because I'm a 1. So
yeah.
If I tell you 5, then you have a higher expectation. So no.
Do you think rats are cute? Do you find rats to be cute?
Only in movies.
Only in movies.
Okay. I mean, and in many movies, to be clear.
Okay, like Ratatouille kind of a thing. Yeah. It is kind of cool. Hiding in the hat, cooking the food. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I can watch that all day. What are you having for dinner tonight?
I have no idea. I haven't thought that far.
I mean, it is only 12:30, so that's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
What is
I don't even know what I'm having for lunch. Just
I know. Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't know either. Probably just water. What is your favorite season of the year? Fall. Okay. Well, you live in North Carolina, so it can get a little toasty down there, I guess.
Great colors, and it's not too hot, not too cold. It's perfect.
And it's not the spring when all that you guys get that pollen.
The pollen. Oh my God,
brutal,
that's terrible.
Yeah. Okay, I like that answer for North Carolina. All right, and finally, again, this is where we really get to know a person. What temperature do you like to set your thermostat?
75 in the summer.
Okay. What about the winter?
65.
65. That's on the extreme. I've heard people do the same thing where they have like a, that kind of range thing going on, but it's usually like 72, 68 there, but it is kind of seems like it's centered on 70. That seems to be a natural phenomenon for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're way up there. 75, 65. Okay. All right. You don't have a bad
I like to save energy.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're down there near Duke and Duke Energy and those sort of things. So they send you that report. Here's how you can save money.
I want to do my part to save the planet,
Absolutely. No, you're doing a good job. Okay. Well, that wraps up the lightning round. Again, we'll tabulate your scores. That comes out in about, I believe we're at about a month and a half, 2 months now.
Wait, there's a score?
There's going to be a scoring out. We'll share it with you privately. Well, we don't, because sometimes people are disappointed in their score, and we don't want to announce that publicly. So we'll share that with you privately. After the fact.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I want a high score.
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks or so it takes us to tabulate everything. There's an algorithm. We did train our own foundational model for this. It's a lot. It's a lot of science. I don't want to bore you with it, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Anything coming up for you? Are you giving a talk anywhere? Are you guys on going to be at a conference anywhere? A book coming out? Are you doing a one-man show on Broadway? Anything like that you have coming up soon that you'd like to share?
I'm certainly not doing the Broadway thing, but
Okay.
yeah, we actually have a big event coming up. We have we're doing a GA general available launch of the product end of the month.
Okay.
So
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Okay. I'm excited.
looking forward
I
to that.
actually want to check it out for sure. I'm really, I think this, RE thing, it's piqued my interest. So I got to check this out for sure.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a great conversation. I had a lot of insights. We were all over the place. Higher ed, we delved into that. We talked
Yeah.
about what can we do as founders, and what are the lessons learned on founding companies, and here's the quick answer to spinning up a new company. You don't have to learn this lesson. You gave us 2 of those, so that was cool. We only asked for 1. We got 2 of those. But yeah, thank you so much for coming and being on the show with us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys look out for the Ariso to be releasing a general availability of their product here very soon. Be on the lookout for that. Where can they find that? What's the web address for that, by the way?
Ariso.ai.
Ariso.ai. Okay. How expensive are those .ai domain names these days? Are they pricier than like your .com?
Yeah, they are actually a bit pricier, but they're not bad. I think it was like around $50 or something a
Oh,
year.
that's not bad. Okay, that's
Yeah.
not, they're not killing us on it. Okay. All right. Well, if you'd like to get in touch with us here at the /, drop us a line at the / at Calibrity.com. See you next time. The / podcast is created by Calibrity. The / team is director and producer Ryan Wilson, editing by Steve Baradelli, marketing support by Taylor Blessing, and I'm your host, James Carman. Thanks for listening.